The cadet's vessel drifted on the edge of the asteroid field, its hull dimly lit by the scatter of reflected starlight. Inside the narrow cockpit, Cadet Alina Serov adjusted the controls with measured precision, her gloved hands steady despite the silence pressing against her ears. She was alone, her assignment routine but no less suffocating: patrol the empty corridor, log activity, and return without incident. Yet even as she scanned the black, a chill in her gut whispered that the void was not as empty as it appeared. Her breath fogged faintly inside the helmet she had not bothered to remove. Regulations said, keep it close. Experience said the same. Out here, backup was days away, and hesitation was the difference between survival and memory. She checked the readouts again, convinced some ghost signature was hiding beneath the sensor's reach. The pulse of her ship was steady, but her pulse was not. The answer came without warning. A shimmer rippled across the stars, bending them unnaturally, and then the Predator warship revealed itself like a shadow peeling back its cloak. Alina froze. The ship was a leviathan compared to her patrol craft, its armored skin marked with sigils she did not recognize, its weapons glowing faintly as though savoring the chance to fire. The void had teeth, and they were pointed at her. The comm crackled, not with words at first, but with a growl, low, resonant, meant to intimidate before a voice even formed. Then came the translation overlay, jagged and strained, as if the human tongue resisted the shape of the Predator's command. Little prey, it rumbled. Engines cold. Surrender your vessel. Struggle will be enjoyed. Alina's throat tightened. The Academy simulations had prepared her for encounters, but not this, not so soon. Her ship carried no weapons worth the name. She was reconnaissance, nothing more. She could flee, try to slip into the asteroid field, but her craft's engines would light her up like a flare. She could comply, buy time, maybe hope for interception. Yet surrender to predators was rarely an ending that left stories behind. She opened her mouth, ready to stall with a calmness she did not feel, when a low vibration ran through the ship. For a heartbeat, she thought the Predator's weapons had already fired, but then she recognized the sound, the faint hiss of hydraulics, the warming of circuits not touched in weeks. Her eyes flicked to the rear compartment. A rectangular pod, frosted along its seams, pulsed with a slow thrum of awakening. Inside, curled like a storm contained in glass, was her companion, a Wolverine bred not by nature but by human design, augmented for endurance, muscle density, and a predatory instinct even predators feared. They called them bond beasts at the Academy. Weapons, yes, but more than that. Partners forged in the same crucible of survival. She had put him into stasis at the mission start. Regulations demanded energy conservation, and a patrol was not supposed to need claws and fury. Yet somehow, impossibly, the creature stirred. His breath fogged against the pod's interior. His amber eyes snapped open, glowing faintly in the dimness. He met her gaze through the small viewing pane, and though the glass separated them, she felt the ancient, undeniable connection spark to life. Alina swallowed hard, her fear bending into something sharper, something steadier. She turned back to the looming Predator ship, its weapons humming louder, its shadow blotting out the stars. The calm growl deepened, pressing into her ears like a physical weight. "Pray," the alien voice insisted. "Kneel." Her hand hovered above the comm switch, but she did not answer. Behind her, the pod locks released with a hiss. Metal claws scraped against steel as the beast within began to move. The cornered cadet was not as alone as the predators believed. The Predator's voice rumbled through the comm again, this time sharper, the tone of a hunter losing patience. Alina forced her own voice steady as she replied, masking the quiver in her throat. "This is Cadet Serov of the Terran Fleet. I acknowledge your signal." The words were chosen with care, neither surrender nor defiance, but even she could hear the hollowness in them. The Predator captain laughed, a sound like rocks grinding in a furnace. "Acknowledged," the translation spat back, means prey knows it has no claws. The warship edged closer, its hull bristling with docking clamps already unfolding. Her ship shuddered beneath their shadow, a reminder of the futility of resistance. Alina tightened her jaw and fought the instinct to reach for controls that would do nothing. Stalling was all she had, a slim thread of time, and time was worth everything. From behind, the hiss of hydraulics deepened into a growl of life. The pod doors opened fully, and the Wolverine unfolded from its chamber, its movements slow but certain, muscle and sinew rippling under fur darker than midnight. It blinked once, twice, then fixed its gaze on her. In that look was recognition, not of handler and beast, but of something older. A pact formed when survival bound two creatures together against a hostile universe. Alina remembered the first day at the academy, when she had been assigned to him, still a cub then, but dangerous enough to make other cadets flinch. They had trained side by side, stumbling through commands until words gave way to instinct. She had never named him. The instructors warned against sentiment, but she called him Varric in her head, a name whispered in private, never recorded. Now, seeing the beast awake, she let the unspoken name steady her. The docking clamps from the Predator ship scraped against her hull, the sound sharp and final. Alina braced as the calm flared again. "We take your vessel. You will kneel. We carve your name into our hunt songs." The words dripped with certainty, as if her submission was already history. Her ship trembled under impact as the first boarding conduit locked. Red lights stuttered across her control panel. Varric's hackles rose, his body crouching low, nostrils flaring at the scent of intrusion he could not yet see. The airlock cycled, metal moaning as if the ship itself resisted. Then it burst open. 3 Predator warriors stepped through, their forms towering, their armor scarred by hunts older than Alina's years. Their blades glimmered, curved for tearing rather than precision. Their masks glowed faintly, scanning her, marking her pulse, cataloging her fear. One growled a word she didn't understand, and the others advanced. Varric moved first. A blur of muscle and fury, he struck with claws that shredded armor, as if it were cloth. The first Predator fell, blood spraying in dark arcs across the bulkhead. The second swung a blade, only to be caught by jaws that closed with the sound of breaking stone. The third stumbled back, weapon raised, but Alina was there, driving the emergency flare gun into his chest and firing. Fire bloomed, and his scream cut through the air like tearing metal. The corridor filled with smoke, the stench of scorched flesh mingling with ozone. Varric stood over the fallen, his chest heaving, eyes bright with primal satisfaction. Alina's own chest heaved, but her fear was transmuted into something else, something harder. For the first time, she felt the balance shift. The calm roared with the captain's fury, words nearly lost in static. Prey fights. Prey draws blood. Then prey dies slow. The Predator ship rocked slightly, as if the anger within could shake metal itself. Alina wiped blood from her visor, her mind racing. They knew now. She was not helpless. They would not underestimate her again. But neither would she. She crouched beside Varric, her hand brushing his fur, grounding herself in the heat of his presence. He turned his head, muzzle slick with victory, and pressed against her arm as if to say the same thing she felt. "We are not done." The sound of more clamps engaging echoed through the hull. Reinforcements were coming, heavier numbers, sharper blades, more determined than the first. Yet Alina no longer saw herself as a cadet stranded and cornered. She saw herself as part of a pack, 2 against many, but enough to tilt fate. She keyed the calm, her voice cutting into the silence before the Predator captain could taunt her again. "You should have left me adrift. You should have kept your shadows. Now, the hunt belongs to me." Varric growled low, a sound that made the deck plates hum. The air in the ship was thick with the promise of blood yet to be shed. Alina's pulse slowed, not with calm, but with certainty. The Predators were coming, but for the first time, she was ready to meet them. The hull groaned under the weight of repeated impacts as more boarding conduits latched onto Alina's vessel. She could feel the vibrations through her boots, each one a reminder that the Predator ship was no longer satisfied with intimidation. They wanted to end this. Smoke from the first skirmish curled along the corridors, carrying the metallic tang of blood and scorched plating. Varric prowled ahead of her, every muscle coiled, his breath a steady rasp that filled the silence between alarms. He moved as though he owned the ship, as though the intruders were trespassers in his den. The hatch ahead buckled, metal folding inward under brute force. When it gave, 6 Predator warriors surged through, blades glinting and rifles sparking. Alina dropped to one knee and fired her last shock round, the arc striking one warrior and convulsing him into the wall. Varric lunged past her, tearing into another with such force the creature screamed only once before silence claimed him. The others roared, surrounding them, but the narrow corridor denied them numbers. Steel rang against claws, sparks burst with every strike, and Alina fought with the kind of desperation that burned hesitation out of her body. She ducked, swung her utility blade, and felt it bite through alien flesh. When the last fell, gurgling in disbelief, Alina leaned against the wall, chest heaving. Blood pooled on the deck, seeping into grooves like ink spreading across parchment. Varric shook himself, muzzle wet, eyes fierce and unyielding. For an instant, their gazes locked, and in that shared look was a pact renewed. This fight was not merely survival, it was retribution. She knew her ship could not hold much longer. The hull integrity warnings flashed crimson across her console. If they stayed, they would be overwhelmed. Her only chance was to bring the fight to the Predator ship itself, to strike where they believed themselves untouchable. She set a course, locking her vessel to the enemy's hull. The impact rattled her teeth, but the docking clamps held. As the airlock cycled, she felt the shift inside her. Fear burned away, leaving behind a resolve sharp as glass. The Predator corridors were colder, wider, filled with a haze of recycled air that carried the musk of hunters. Shadows stretched along the walls, distorted by dim red lighting. Alina and Varric moved together, silent as predators themselves. Every corner threatened ambush, every vent a whisper of movement. The warship was alive with sound, growls echoing through steel, the thrum of engines, the promise of violence. The first ambush came swiftly. A warrior dropped from above, claws extended. Varric intercepted midair, dragging the predator to the ground where Alina drove her blade home. The scream was cut short. They pressed forward, leaving the body cooling behind them. Every step deepened her awareness of the bond between them. She no longer felt like a cadet following protocol but a hunter herself, blood singing with instinct she had not known she possessed. The Predator captain's voice boomed through the corridor, no longer mocking but commanding. Pray defile our hulls.
Hunt it.
Break it. Bleed it slow. His words fueled the air, turning the warship into a maze of pursuit. But Alina caught something in his tone, an edge of urgency, even unease. He had lost warriors already. His arrogance cracked with every body she and Varric left behind. They reached the central chamber, a vast hall where the captain waited, flanked by his remaining hunters. His armor was etched with countless victories, his weapons long and cruel, his stature towering even above his kin. His gaze fixed on her and he snarled, "Prey with claws is still prey. I take your skull for my helm." Alina lifted her chin, blade steady though her arms ached from battle. "Then come take it," she answered, her voice low but clear. The chamber erupted in violence. Warriors surged forward, and the world dissolved into chaos. Varric hurled himself into their ranks, scattering them like leaves in a storm. Alina ducked beneath a sweeping blade, countered with a strike that tore across armor. She felt cuts bloom across her arms, the sting of shallow wounds, but pain sharpened her focus. Every movement was survival carved into action, every heartbeat synchronized with Varric's. Then the captain advanced. He moved with terrifying speed, his strikes hammering against her defenses, driving her back step by step. Sparks flared as his blade scraped her visor, as steel clashed with steel. He was stronger, faster, older, a predator perfected by war. But Alina was not alone. Varric slammed into the captain's side, claws tearing into armor that had never known breach. The captain roared, staggering but not falling. He seized Varric by the scruff, hurling him across the chamber, but the moment's distraction was enough. Alina surged forward, driving her blade into the seam beneath his arm. The captain howled, staggering again. Varric recovered, blood-matted and furious, and leapt once more. This time, his jaws clamped onto the captain's throat, crushing with merciless precision. The fight ended in a spray of dark blood and the sound of a body collapsing. Silence pressed in, broken only by Alina's ragged breathing and Varric's low growl that slowly subsided. The remaining warriors hesitated, their confidence shattered. Without their leader, their hunt song was broken. One by one, they retreated into the shadows, leaving their dead behind. Alina stood over the fallen captain, her blade still slick, her body trembling not with fear, but with the release of battle's grip. She reached for Varric, pressing her hand against his fur, grounding herself in his warmth. He leaned into her, eyes fierce yet calm, as if assuring her that the fight was theirs, always theirs. She activated her comm, sending a signal into the void. Her voice was hoarse, but steady. Cadet Serov, reporting. Enemy vessel neutralized. Survivors retreating. Mission concluded. Static answered, but she knew the fleet would hear. The chamber grew quiet, the Predator's ship a graveyard adrift among the stars. Alina looked at Varric, his chest rising and falling with slow certainty, and for the first time since the ambush began, she allowed herself a breath of peace. They were still alive. Against the impossible, they had endured. Yet beyond the wreckage and silence, the stars stretched endless, and she knew this was not the end. Survival in one battle only opened the door to the next. She tightened her grip on her blade, meeting Varric's gaze. The universe was vast, ruthless, but together, they had proven they were no one's prey.